Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more. Sony's doing something brilliant here in the UK with their new tablet. They're bundling it with a keyboard. Sure, this isn't anything new. Flashback to the Asus Transformer series, it's been done for years, but this is still very, very neat. The Sony Xperia Z4 Tablet is the first Sony device to ship with a 2K or QuadHD display. It's also thin, light, waterproof, and extremely powerful as well. As for the dock, it's also thin and light, though waterproof it isn't. Together they attach, fold, detach, reverse, and the tablet even slots into the dock in portrait orientation for some weird portrait typing that's actually excellent. What makes this review even easier is the fact I've been using a prototype version of the Z4 Tab for over a month. So paired with my time with a final retail unit, and I'm in a pretty decent position to explain exactly why I love this tablet so. Starting with the tablet's design, and this thing is slick. The bezels are slimmer, there are less flaps, and it's skinnier than the Z2 tablet. It carries forward the plastic body of old, ensuring that it remains light. Getting into numbers, it's just 6.1 millimeters thin and weighs just 393 grams. This makes it one of the few 10-inch tablets that's great in one hand. The bezels may be smaller than that of the Z2 tablet, but they're still there. In one hand at least, this is a good thing. You can manage the tablet with room for your thumb to grip along the sides. Other design highlights include the newly exposed micro USB port and the crisper display. Cumulatively, this is what a tablet should be: attractive, portable, and premium. Well, that was easy. Now let's talk about the keyboard. The BKB50 plays a huge part in what makes this such a good bit of kit. It isn't just about using it as a keyboard in the traditional sense. For starters, like I introed, you can position the tablet in portrait as securely as you can in landscape. Apps like Instagram and Tinder benefit from this. These don't orient to landscape. It's also perfect for document editing and Evernote, showcasing what feels like a whole page at a time. The tab can also be reversed for presentations and watching movies. Admittedly, the weighting could be a little bit better. It's a touch top heavy, especially when in portrait, and so can topple over in theory. In practice, this never actually happened to me. I use this a lot, but my wrists were always resting on the dock, preventing it from being, well, top heavy. The keys are small, you can touch type, though it takes a few minutes to get used to. Cumulatively, I typed for at least 20 hours on this thing. I haven't done that volume of work on any tablet I've reviewed, other than the Surface Pro 3 and the Surface 3. That's all down to the fact it ships with the dock. The downside of the dock's design is, however, that it's flimsy. It bends, and I'm guessing it isn't meant to bend. Sony's also branded their own new mechanism for attaching and detaching the dock. It's called brute force, and frankly, it's terrifying, especially with a £500 gadget. You really have to yank the two components, and given how thin both are, something feels like it could just snap. Still, over 4 weeks into use and nothing has. So while the combination isn't perfect, the BKB50 keyboard dock is the difference between this just being another indulgent tablet and a truly useful tool. It's also massively helped along by the beautiful QuadHD tri-luminous display. 300 pixels per inch means it is sharp. LTPS LCD means it has great viewing angles and really good white balance too. Sony also supports custom white balance in the display settings. The tri-luminous panel is also very saturated, and it's bright at 500 candelas. My only criticism of the display would be that blacks aren't super deep like you get to see from some AMOLEDs like those on the Tab S for example. Still though, this is the best we've seen from Sony as far as screen goes, and super competitive with other tablets out there. The operating system is Android 5.0.2 and it's paired with Sony's custom UI over the top. The UI is slick and familiar to any Android user. What's brilliant about it is that it changes when you use the dock. I'll start with the core experience. You've got home screens you can populate with apps and widgets, there's a notifications bar as well as an applications tray. Sony customizes things in ways that they've done so before. You can choose the quick toggles in the notifications tray, for example. The apps tray also has a menu to speed up personalizing it. You can also theme your Z4 tablet with pre-installed themes or download new ones. None of these are going to be new for Sony veterans though. The only new feature of the user interface that I found was, well, frankly just a bit silly. You can make your home screen icons smaller. This extends to the applications tray. doesn't mean you can add more, it just makes them harder to see. So I don't really get it, but maybe Sony knows what they were doing there, and I just don't. Never mind, still a very solid user interface at the heart. Pair it with a keyboard dock though, and that's where Sony's UI comes into its own for the Z4 tablet. As soon as you connect the two, a quick launch menu appears in the Android taskbar. This can be customized and populated with up to 3 rows of shortcuts. On the bottom left corner is an upward arrow. Just tap that for your start menu. Obviously Sony isn't calling it a start menu, but the likeness is undeniable. Here you can access floating apps, recent notes, and your keyboard settings. It's a simple addition that just marries software and hardware beautifully and rounds off the whole user experience well. One thing I will note is that while the typing experience is fair, the trackpad's a little bit rubbish. It needs to be tapped before it registers your finger, making you wait a couple of seconds every time you want to use it if you've left it idle for a while. Touching the screen is quicker virtually 100% of the time. I say virtually. One benefit of having the trackpad is the fact the tablet is wireless. The two don't need to be connected to hook the Z4 Tab up to the trackpad, so you can have the Z4 Tab hooked up to a TV or on the other side of a room and control it with just your BKB50 in hand. Just one final word on the user interface. There's just a little bit too much bloatware on here for my liking. A lot of it is uninstallable, and that's commendable in itself, but definitely would have liked more internal memory free for all my stuff. Now on to multimedia, and this is the most solid camera combination that we've seen from a Sony tablet to date. 8 megapixels around the back, 5 megapixels around the front with a nice new wide angle so you can get more of your friends in frame. With no flash around the back, the main camera only really excels in well-lit conditions. Macro performance is impressive with punchy results and fair detail. There are also a ton of shooting modes, though don't expect 4K video. You'll get creative filters, face-in-picture, multi-camera and panorama. While not brilliant, even low-light shots are improved over the Z2 tabs. As for the front camera, the higher resolution means more detail. The wider angle means you get lots in frame, and it's perfect for Skype calls, for example, recording up to full HD video as well. Even better, the front camera also has loads of shooting modes, ranging from superior auto right through to AR mask. And unlike the AR mask on the Z3 Plus, the Tab 4 doesn't overheat after 30 seconds. In terms of pure ergonomics, the keyboard is a godsend for video chats. No need to awkwardly position the tablet on a surface or hold it for the best part of an hour. Other multimedia fares even better. Videos look great on that bright, vibrant display, and apps like Netflix and BBC iPlayer make getting content on here a doddle. Xperia Privilege Plus also gives you 3 offline movies out of the box for free. The stereo speakers are also good. They aren't great. Good enough for an episode on Netflix, YouTube videos, the odd track, but for anything longer, just hook up a Bluetooth speaker. With the sharp display and lightweight, this is also a great ebook reader too. Reading apps also abundant, with favorites like Kindle and Kobo ever present, as well as news services too. Gaming also rocks for the most part. Back to the keyboard, and some games are optimized to take advantage of this. This isn't ideal for most touch games, but for the likes of Final Fantasy, it's pretty awesome. 2D, 3D, fighting games, action games, shoot 'em ups, as long as the game suits a 10-inch form factor, it tends to work great on this thing. The Tab also played back games well for a fair while with no signs of overheating. There were a couple of anomalies. Chaos Rings 3, for example, just didn't want to register touch input. Soul Calibur also didn't work with touch input, but it did work with the DualShock 4 controller. Speaking of, the DualShock 4 compatibility is also very welcome, as is the PS4 Remote Play, which is much improved over the launch version. Now you can switch your PS4 on remotely, and playback is also smoother, connection pending of course. Performance generally from the Snapdragon 810 is pretty flawless, unlike what we've been seeing from the Z3 Plus. It benchmarks like a champion, plays games brilliantly, and performs well day to day. The fact you know 3 GB of RAM is under the hood means you also know it's well catered for in that department, even with the QuadHD display. Don't get me wrong, it gets warm, especially with LTE switched on, but it doesn't get silly hot like the Z3 Plus. There's also plenty of room on board for your data, 32 GB, as well as micro SD expandability. Connections are packing with 4G, 3G voice call support, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS and NFC. The 6000 mAh battery initially left me cold when I read the spec sheet. I didn't think it would make it through a full day. but it does. Now it makes it through 2 days with pretty regular use. This tablet therefore gives the Snapdragon 810 two things, the first being plenty of room to breathe, and the second being an excellent showcase for its capabilities. The chipsets come under fire since it launched, and everyone's really turning up the heat with a magnifying glass right over the Snapdragon 810 in every new device it launches in. Fortunately, the Z4 Tab doesn't slip up where phone variants do, suggesting that the tablet form factor and the Snapdragon 810 are a marriage made in heaven. And that brings me on to my conclusion, which is a simple one. As far as what's in the Android camp goes, it doesn't get much better, if any better, than the Z4 Tab. The Microsoft Surface 3 is better for productivity, and it's a similar kind of price point, so I can see why you'd be swayed to go for that instead of this. But the Sony Xperia Z4 Tablet is more of a tablet. It's thinner, it's lighter, and it's bath time ready as well. Sure, the dock is a bit flimsy and the attaching and detaching mechanisms leave a lot to be desired, but I would definitely rather see it included than not included. In addition, from that screen right through to the gaming performance and multimedia performance in general, it's just a real pleasure to use the Sony Xperia Z4 Tablet, making it a very easy one to recommend. Hopefully you enjoyed my review of the Z4 Tablet. If you did, then make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel. That's how you're going to stay on top of everything we do. And if you've got any questions about this or anything else I've spoken about in this review, then just fire them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.